we've spent the last few years really digging into our vision and our mission, and to see where our programming can align most or best with that. And so these are it culminates in these three programs: Catalyze, Explore, and Summit. And so it's a little different. I know because Valley Leadership has been around 40+ years in the Valley, there's absolutely a brand and a story that goes along with its history. These three new programs, although new names, really reflect the spirit of the last 40 years, and that's a spirit of getting things done for Arizona. So as a native, I didn't know about Valley Leadership, and when I took the job, just completely blown away by the network. It is not a networking group, it is a networked group. Over 40 years and 40 years of cohorts going through programming, it really is the who's who when you think about Arizona and the things we can do for Arizona. So we wanted to get as many people into our network as possible so that we can get as much accomplished for Arizona as possible. So appreciate your interest in joining possibly one of our programs. And thank you, Michelle. I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Dave. So as an organization, our mission is really clear. We're working to bring a broad spectrum of Arizonans together to work in collaboration as leaders to impact Arizona's most pressing issues. And that mission of ours is directly linked to our core belief that leadership is action. It's not a job title or a position you hold, but rather we believe leadership is something that all of us can choose to practice. And practicing leadership looks like living out the principles of doing that you see here. We're going to be digging a bit deeper into what these principles stand for in our mini session at the end, because these principles of being driven to do, putting Arizona first, building trust, operating with a team mindset, and demonstrating integrity all really form the backbone of any program that you'll encounter at Valley Leadership. Now, over the past 3 years, Valley Leadership has evolved its programs to better align to the mission and the principles of doing that you just saw. And that evolution has brought us to today, where we have taken all the best parts of our past programming and built upon them to create a new suite of programs that we believe has the potential to really move our organization and our state forward. Our new program suite is designed for anyone who wants to do good work for Arizona. So if that's you, you are in the right place, and Catalyze is a great starting point and is the program we're recruiting for right now. Now, we also have an ongoing effort called Impact Maker, which has been running for about 2 years now. That's something that you can tap into after you've completed Catalyze. And because Catalyze will serve as a prerequisite for our other new programs, completing it this year gives you the option to join Explore or Summit when we roll those programs out in 2022. Now, I want to share just a bit more about those two programs I just mentioned. Explore and Summit are both set to launch in the spring. Explore is designed to help participants learn more about the great diversity of our state by traveling to various parts of Arizona and learning about how our issues show up in rural, urban, suburban, and Native American communities. Participants will expand their perspectives, their knowledge of the issues, and have time to build meaningful relationships with each other in their cohort. Summit helps leaders deepen their understanding of a specific issue that has a tremendous impact on our state. It's our most flexible program, and it will allow participants to start putting their knowledge to work right away, whether that be in their career, in the community, or in Impact Maker. If you are already subscribed to our email list, you can expect to receive updates as we gear up to officially launch these two programs next spring. So if you are new to the Valley Leadership family, you should think of Catalyze as the prerequisite for getting involved in our future programs or an Impact Maker, which we'll share a bit more about in just a moment. And if you're a Valley Leadership alum, it may be helpful to participate in Catalyze if it's been a while since you graduated and you're curious about the type of evolutions we've made to our programming. We have taken all the best parts of Accelerate and Institute, which you might be familiar with, and we've funneled them into our new program suite, which you see here, making up the 3 programs that will run from now on. So that said, we are excited to share even more with you today about our newest program, Catalyze. We've designed it to do 4 big things. First, we want to help participants make connections with each other, with people who are eager to, I'm sorry, I'm going to move these little boxes here, with other people who are eager to make connections in the community. We want to help participants build knowledge about themselves and about the most pressing issues facing Arizona today. We want to introduce participants to tools that will help build up their introspection, communication, and collaboration skills. And lastly, we want to help participants broaden their perspectives by hearing from community leaders that are working on some of the state's most pressing issues. Those issues will encompass several topics that you see here, including social determinants of health, child well-being, education, and issues related to poverty. These topics will be explored over the course of 10 virtual sessions, which will kick off in early September and wrap up in February. Each session will run for 3 hours and 15 minutes and will occur every other week. You can expect to spend 1 to 1.5 hours preparing for each session so that we're able to make the most of our time together. Now, because we want to ensure that people all across Arizona can participate in the program, all 10 sessions will be virtual. But sprinkled throughout the program, we'll have opportunities to socialize with each other in person, as well as opportunities to socialize with each other virtually. And we'll also give you the chance to complete pre-work activities together in person if you desire to do that. So when you arrive at a virtual session, you'll be greeted with an agenda that looks something like this. This is an actual agenda that we used in our first virtual program called Ready Together, which wrapped up in January. Our sessions are designed to be fast-paced and interactive, so you can expect to engage in multiple breakout sessions with your peers, as well as hear from 1 to as many as 5 guest speakers, depending on our topic and the format of that particular session. And if you're wondering what sorts of guest speakers we tend to invite, here's just a small sample of a few guests that we heard from during our Ready Together program. The insight you gain from our guest speakers, in addition to the independent work that you'll complete as you prepare for each session, is all designed to help you clarify for yourself what you want to commit to doing after Catalyze ends. And you'll use that commitment to craft your own personal impact plan. Now, your impact plan might include joining a Valley Leadership Impact Team. The Impact Maker is a network of Valley Leadership alumni and strategic partners who are working together to tackle to-do lists in pursuit of both immediate impact as well as systemic change. We now have 7 impact teams addressing issues ranging from child well-being to the environment. We just added our racial justice and environment teams this year, and we're continuing to grow and have plans to launch additional teams in the near future. So if this sounds like something that interests you and that you would like to be a part of, you should know that anyone who completes Catalyze or anyone who's already gone through a Valley Leadership program is eligible to join Impact Maker. Now, like we mentioned earlier, Catalyze sessions will begin in early September, specifically the week of September 6th, and occur about every other week until the week of February 7th. We'll offer at least 1 morning session option and 1 evening session option so that participants can select into the time that works best for their schedule. And in addition to the session dates that you see here, we'll also include in-person and virtual social events spread throughout the program. So at this point, you may be wondering about the cost for Catalyze. Because we want to make sure that cost is never a barrier for someone to participate, we have created a sliding scale. The program cost ranges from $200 to $750, depending on income level. And those income levels differ based on whether someone belongs to a household with a single income or a household with multiple incomes. And I also want to mention that scholarships and/or wage replacement may be available to you, and there's a place on the application where you can request more information about that. The application is completely online and is comprised of a few short answer questions. We'll review applications as they come in on a rolling basis. And once we've reviewed that application, you can expect an email notifying you about whether you've been accepted. To access that application, you'll want to visit our website at valleyleadership.org/Catalyze and make sure to submit that application by our deadline of June 22nd. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions that you might have about our programming, and I'm going to have Dave moderate those questions for us. And I'll give you 2 options. If you are comfortable, feel free to unmute and share your question out loud, or if you'd rather type it into the chat box, feel free to do that as well.
Thank you, Michelle.
You said during the weeks, hi, it's Mike Palmer. You said during those weeks, there's going to be an evening and a morning option. Or does that mean that there's going to be multiple sessions on the same topic throughout during that 1 week? Or is it, 1 week will be morning, 1 week will be an evening? How does that work? I have essentially, every Thursday night, I'm toast. I got a league I run.
Yes, that's a great question. Participants will opt into either evening or morning, and that means all the sessions that you attend in the program will be at the same time. So if you opt into, for example, a Thursday morning session, that's the same session time that you'll continue to attend throughout the program. So we have people submit some surveys, and then we do our best to pick times that are going to accommodate the most schedules. Any other questions? Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that.
Hey, Michelle, this is Mike Stoniak. I like the sound of the initial program. To understand the overall trajectory, and you did a good job in giving an overview. I'd love to get more information on the other programs you mentioned as well. How does one go about doing that to further inform their decision on the whole process?
That's a great question. I can send you, we have a one-pager that gives you a little bit more detail as to what you can expect for Explore and Summit. But we are still designing those programs since we won't launch until spring of 2022. So we're going to continue to further flesh out those details. So if you already subscribe to our email list, please do if you haven't. You're going to continue to get updates. And when we get closer and we've opened up recruitment for those programs, we'll have sessions like this that give you way more detail as to what you can expect and what the application process will look like.
Okay, thank you.
And you can also visit the website where we have each program has its own page, gives you a little more information. You also find costs there as well. These are all new programs, and as we start to build them out, Catalyze will roll out first, followed by Explore, and then Summit. And we'd love to hear feedback too as you start to explore, and if you would like to talk further about which option may be best for you, please let us know. And thank you, Bailey, for putting in the chat the link to the different options. Brianna, what size cohort do you anticipate for Catalyze this fall? We're expecting between 100, 150, could go more than 150. Our cohort last year fall with Ready Together was about low 90s. Within that cohort, though, as Michelle mentioned, there'll be a split between who's a part of the nighttime, who's part of the daytime program. And then within those sessions, you'll also be put into pods of 5 to 6 people that you'll be close with for the whole duration of the program, and then random pods throughout the course. So you'll get a good chance to mix and mingle with others in your cohort. In addition to that, there'll be complete cohort-wide social events where you'll be able to see and meet people that are not only in your Tuesday evening session or your personal pod, but across the whole program. And those will be sprinkled throughout the program overall. Thomas, please talk about Impact Maker since that is available currently. So Impact Maker available to all VL alumni as of now. Going forward, you'll have to go through at least the Catalyze program that then gets you available to jump into the Impact Maker work. So right now, Impact Maker has around 120 or so groups, or excuse me, leaders across those 12 teams, or excuse me, 7 teams and about 12 areas of work, comprised mostly of VL alum. We're still exploring how we want to make it as accessible as possible to get involved with the most pressing issues facing Arizona. That's part of our mission and vision. So right now, if you're not a VL alum currently, you'll have to go through Catalyze to join Impact Maker. And then beyond that, you'll have the opportunity to also do Explore or Summit. Lisa, will this program be held virtually indefinitely? Or is that something you anticipate changing in the future? Right now, don't anticipate changing. As we come off of the pandemic, we're going to continue to figure out how we get people together and in person. But one of the big things we learned over the past year and through the pandemic, and then really the last 4 years of how we built these programs, was the accessibility. We want it to be as accessible as possible. And this program, to get to the next question there about the change from past VL programming, we really felt like in order to understand the most pressing issues facing Arizona and be able to activate what you're interested as quickly as possible, but also as informed as possible. The old model of Institute really wasn't as needed. That old model had participants spending a whole Friday once a month, every month for 9 months, going through issues, and we felt like there's some challenges with that when you want to think about statewide issues and people who are not here in Phoenix. When you think about getting off work for a whole day, there's some issues with that. So as we started thinking about how we prepare a leader for the impact maker involvement, Bridget, Michelle, and Bailey and the team spent a lot of time thinking about how that happens. And we came to the conclusion that the traditional or historic way of leadership programming all over the country wasn't the best fit. So right now we feel that through the virtual programming, one, we can be more accessible. I will say there will be absolute things that you'll do together. So some of the pre-session work will be done in person. You'll have those social opportunities to also engage. And so there'll be opportunities to build your relationships, which is a big part of how we get things done. And then when you go on to Explore, that's all in person, and as well as Summit is all in person. So to get everybody the baseline readiness for engaging on those most pressing issues, we felt we could do it best virtually and as accessible as possible virtually. And for the time being, that's what we're gonna try out and see how it goes. Another question here from Nancy. Yes, you will be required to attend either the morning or the evening, and that will be your cohort for the whole session that you'll have to attend for the whole session. What if travel schedules don't allow to attend one session? Absences are allowed. So it's something where we have a set of norms where we want you present and engaged. So we have you're on time. We see your face. So I know, for the Zoom weary that we will see your face. That's part of the norm when it comes to the cohort. And then yes, if you have something come up, if you have to miss absence, as long as they're, as we know about it, they're called excused absences and you're fine. And just based on experience of last fall, again, most of us were confined to the home, but it was great to see the level of engagement stayed around 90% for most of the sessions. So yeah, we're flexible, and we know that work and family and life and other things pop up that absolutely able to miss one. Great question. Is there a class project? No. And that's another change from the previous 40 years, frankly. We heard from alumni over the past several years that the class project was temporary. Some engagements, some chose not to engage. It had to fit in with the time frame of the 9-month Institute program. Lots of duplication with efforts already happening. So no, we decided to no longer do projects. Instead, you have one, what we hope is lifetime project, and that's getting involved in the Impact Maker. The Impact Maker items of work include tactical things, but all are working towards long-term systemic change. So for example, of our teams now, teams have been working on some areas for almost 2 years, some a little over 2 years. So the project span is much different. We are big believers in that in order to solve and help those working in spaces to solve, we have to come with a much longer time frame and expectation of how we engage on that work. So no, there are no longer class projects. Jamie, what's involved in the prep work for each session? I'm going to hand that back over to Michelle, actually.
Yeah, so for our most recent virtual program, that's what we're basing this Catalyze program on. We included a really wide variety of tasks or activities that you would complete prior to a session. Sometimes that included listening to an interview, reading a news article, exploring a database. Like for example, Maricopa County put up an interactive database around COVID-19 statistics and cases. That was something that we explored. So it really varies depending on the topic that we're exploring, but we do try our absolute best to make sure that it is all very relevant, very engaging, and something that's going to directly impact the session together, so that whatever you use, whatever you complete prior to showing up in a virtual space, is going to allow us to dig in and get started right away. And that's the whole point. So if it's not relevant or it's not helpful, it will not be included in your prep work.
And we do our best, and we did Michelle did a fantastic job over the fall to do things that were interesting. So again, kind of a little bit of contrast of leadership programs throughout the country is you have to read a lot of things. There's policy papers. You're reviewing PowerPoint decks. We try to make it as engaging as possible. For example, one of the prep work was to drive around and do a windshield survey. This is what doctors do when they go to a community and they need to learn about the community. We did that. People had to do it individually because of COVID. This year, we're gonna pair people up and get more people learning and running around doing things. So that in addition to, you watch a video, you do a TED Talk, you do an interactive kind of survey to learn more about different things. So we keep the prep work as dynamic as possible, and we also include the opportunity during sessions to stay lively. So we know that everyone is slowly coming off Zooms, but many are still doing Zooms, and Zoom will probably be a way of life going forward. The 3 hours moves really quick. And it's something that we are intentional about. We don't want people hanging out staring at a screen for 3 hours. We want them engaged with each other. We want them engaged with the material. We want them engaged with the speaker. Just President Crow doing his 40 minutes last year, questions and answers. It was lively. So we try to keep it as lively as possible because we know, the human brain and eyesight and everything else can't look at a screen for much too long. And Michelle and the team do a great job of making sure things move. A couple more questions here. Evening session, I believe, and again, this is still to be determined once we get the final cohort. Last year, I believe, was 5:30 to 8:30 or 6 to 9.
No, 5:30 to 8:30. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And we'll continue to, as we get the cohort finalized, see what that time ends up being for the nighttime option. Brianna, what are some key qualifications you're looking for in your applicants? Really the main prerequisite is looking and interested in doing for Arizona, and having that mindset of those principles of doing. So the application is still scored, just anybody gets in. You are scored. We have 3 very thoughtful questions that have scoring rubric attached to it, where you'll be assigned a score about how how you as a leader or as an individual want to be a leader. We, again, as Michelle has already pointed out, leadership is an activity. We want you guys doing things. And so it's not necessarily that you sat on 100 boards or that you're senior vice president about to become CEO. That was another big takeaway from our learning over the past few years, is that leadership as an activity really can be anybody. It's not necessarily a title or a position. It's not necessarily an age. We've had people as young as 25 as part of our programming, all the way up to late 60s, because they want to do for Arizona. So that's the main prerequisite, and that's what we want to hear your articulation on what you want to do for Arizona, and that's really the main thing, key qualification we're looking for. Any other questions? Yes, Jamie, some examples of what VL alumni involvement will be after participation in Catalyze or program. So Catalyze, and sorry, Michelle, can you put that slide back up of the pathing one?
Sure, yep. This one here?
Yes, yep. So after Catalyze, again, assuming you're non-alumni already, You can go right into Impact Maker. And Impact Maker, encourage you to go to the VL website. You can click on Impact Maker. It'll take you to its website where you can learn more about all the work happening there. But that involvement is commitment. It's you're meeting at least once a month for a couple hours, working with your peers to help reduce opioid stigma, to help bring more fresh food availability to parts of Phoenix, to think about how we implement a statewide environmental plan, to how we get more kids filling out FAFSAs, how we get more volunteers in the child well-being space. So lots of different things in those 7 issues that you can immediately access after Catalyze. At any point after Catalyze, you can access the Impact Maker. So you get a new job, you have some new family members, whatever it may be, you can jump into the Impact Maker 3 years from now. You can go right into Explore as part of the spring, or Summit as part of the spring and summer. You could wait a year and then do Explore and Summit. So the Impact Maker side of this is very evergreen. We want it always accessible to whenever you want to do something for Arizona, as well as the programming. We got to give you that baseline foundation out of Catalyze, but after that, you may go into Summit straight from Catalyze to dive deeper about education, and then find out 5 years from now, you want to dive deep into the environment or water or the jobs in the economy. You'll be able to do Summit then as well. So this is an evergreen system that's always tappable based on what you want to do and where you want to go as a leader. So Catalyze is the front door, and then after that, you can really choose your own adventure. All right, Michelle, I will hand it back over to you. As always, if there's questions, comments, email is easy, dave@valleyleadership.org. Happy to talk and answer any questions as well as the rest of the staff. And now we'll get through and see what it'll be like as we go through a Catalyze mini session.
Yes, thank you, Dave. And so we are just going to dive right in. So this mini session is designed to really do 2 things. First, we wanted to dig a bit deeper into what we mean when we talk about those principles of doing that you've heard us mention a few times now. And secondly, we really wanted to just give you the opportunity to experience for yourself the type of programming that you'll encounter in the Catalyze program. And so we're going to start with this reflection. I want you to take the next 2 minutes to think about one of these 2 questions. First, what's a belief or an assumption that you've held onto for a very long time, maybe since you were a child? Why do you think that belief or assumption has stuck with you? And what's a belief or an assumption that you adopted brand new as an adult, or one that you used to hold that you no longer hold? What led you to that new adoption or change? So pick whichever one feels most salient to you. And for the next 2 minutes, I want you to just independently reflect on your answer to these questions. After we come back together, we'll have a moment